Anxiety lives in the future, depression, the past. Distraction is cheap, presence is powerful. And in a world full of regret, of fear, of noise, your ability to be here, fully here, is your greatest superpower. My name's Michael Perry, and I'm here today with Justin. This is the new Ashla podcast. Hello and welcome to the new Ashla podcast. Today we are diving into presence. It's a term you hear around everywhere, but what does presence actually mean? I would say presence is one of the most important parts of our teachings because presence is what grounds us in the work we do. When you say, Justin?
It grounds us to the force. It's the most important thing we do. You got to show up, right?
Yeah, right?
I mean, it's and it requires a lot of presence because you have to be in the moment to listen to those whispers in the silence. You really have to be there completely, totally, not just physically, and we'll get into this, but psychologically and spiritually and emotionally and all these things. So it's really a lot more than just being in a place. Yes, you're present, I'm present, but that's not the end of presence. That's not just all of it, right? It's being in the moment with our full selves and not just where our body is located. You're in Aurora somewhere, I'm in Colorado Springs. We're present together thanks to the internet, but we may not be present completely, right? Unless we're here totally. So it's just basically where your attention, your emotion, your energy, your focus, your awareness, all this stuff is there, locked in, where you are in the moment. That's the best way I can define presence, I think.
Yeah. Man, if you would have asked me back when we first met if I was present, I would have been like, I'm totally present. I'm having a conversation with you. I'm doing my job. It's like I had no concept of what presence was, and I think a lot of people fall into this category. I used to go on hikes all the time, and that was my form of being present. And yeah, that's a way to be present. But I'm listening to audiobooks, primarily focusing on that to distract my thoughts.
Right.
And it's just like, I realize I spent most of my life doing everything I could to distract myself. That's why I fell in love with audiobooks and podcasts, is because it was a way where I could be where I was doing what I was doing while also not being there. And
yeah,
man,
we all fall into that, man. I don't go a single day where I find myself being distracted, either mentally or physically. Even to this day, I have to go, something will click in me and go, dude, pay attention. And then I'll have to go, and I'll have to start grabbing all this stuff back and bring it in here. Because I do that all the time. My kids think I have ADHD. I just think that I just scatterbrain sometimes, And it's especially mentally, especially when you got a lot of heavy stuff on you. It's really difficult to be present, And as we'll probably get into it today, that really does have a big effect on your relationships and on your path, really.
Yeah. Well, again, it's like distracting myself all the time. I mean, even meditation, I would put on music and I would try to get into the music. And yeah, that's a form of meditation. But a lot of meditation is to get your mind to sort of release all this pressure that's built up. And man, I spent my whole life running from that mental pressure. And that was probably one of the hardest things when I started on this path, is giving myself the space to be present so that my mind can vent all the crap it needed to. Like, I know a lot of the Hindus truly believe in taking a week of stillness out of life. No sound, no TV, no music, no interactions, just silence, and allowing their minds to just vomit up all this information.
Out here we call that camping.
Yeah, right?
You just drive somewhere where stuff stops working, and then you're good.
Yep.
Then you're good. Yeah, I mean, it's, as far as meditation, there's an infinite number. There is as many meditations as are practitioners. There's just so many. And there are meditations geared toward kind of being in that void, devoid of feelings, thoughts, whatever. And that's really tough to get to. And it can be kind of dangerous for people who are going through a lot of mental issues like, severe PTSD and stuff like that, just as an example. So like when you first started with me, you're like, well, what's the best meditation? I'm like, well, how many have you tried? Because if you're asking me what the best one is, you haven't found it yet, right?
I
So
remember when I was working at Come and Go, you gave me a book you wrote on meditation. Like, here you
yeah,
go, figure it out.
yeah.
Like, all right,
Well,
I'll get that,
it had
Dad.
a lot of different meditations, and just kind of as a side, that book, I wrote that with our old Facebook group. I allowed people to help me write that because I wanted because again, I could teach you meditation. I can teach you meditation all day long, but I don't know what's best for you. That's just a really tough thing to know. It's almost like, how we talk about, what are my needs? I don't even know half the time. So I don't know what your best meditation is until you keep trying them and you keep trying them and you keep trying different ones until you find that. Then you go, oh, I really like this one. And because only you know how it's starting to, interact with you and how it starts to grow you a little bit. So, there's so many systems and so many gurus and so many things. They're like, mine's the best, mine's the best, mine's the best. Horse crap. That's honestly, where because we're always trying to meet reality where it is. I don't know what the best meditation for you is. Most of them are really centered around trying to be in the moment, and this is what we're talking about today, being present. But sometimes those don't work very well, as you said, until we start to become aware of where our distractions are. And kind of distraction is really kind of the enemy of presence, most of it. So, I'm really looking forward to this topic because it is of the utmost importance. Probably one of those day 2 things we should have done, right? But here we are.
Right. I know when it hit me about going over this topic, I'm like, we need to do an episode on this because we talk about it, people hear about it everywhere,
Yeah.
but being present is much more than just being in a location. It's being mentally, emotionally, energetically attuned to the moment.
Yeah. Yeah. So, it is super important. And that's why several axioms center themselves around urging you to be present and truly present. So, it is very important.
So why is presence powerful?
Why is it powerful? Because it's not passive. It's not something that just happens in the background for you. It requires your attention. It requires your awareness. It requires your discernment. All of these things are important along these paths. It doesn't matter what path you're walking to. You got to pay attention. If you're a Christian, you really got to pay attention to the Scripture, more so than what you have to really kind of dive in, right? If you're a Buddhist, you have to dive into the meditations and the teachings. It doesn't matter what you're doing. You have to dive in. You have to give it your utmost attention. And it's powerful because it's not the absence of action. You got to do stuff. You got to practice.
Yeah.
Practice. It really is the full activation of our awareness, like almost superpowers of discernment and awareness, right? You're anchoring your mind and your body and your spirit and your heart into the moment. And this is really the only moment of time that actually exists in life. Now, because the future, and I'll just say this, the future is another now. When we get 2 weeks from now into the future, we're going to be in the now at that point, right? So it is the most important place to be along the timeline. So that's why it's powerful.
I'm glad you brought that up, too. There's a book I read, and it's one of my favorite books, called The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. It's one I want us to do as our next book study. And he really references and grounds in the point that the only time that ever exists is now. And when we say we're going to do things tomorrow is nothing but a concept that is constantly moving with us. Right. And that's why so often people with addictions, habits, action they want to take in life, when they're constantly going for that I will do it tomorrow, they're constantly planning for something that doesn't exist.
Right.
And that's why change is so difficult for so many people, because change can only happen now.
Especially when it doesn't go the way you want it to, right?
Yeah.
But presence is super powerful, really, because that's where you reclaim your power. The only place you have power, really, right?
Yeah.
Is in the moment. That's the only place your power exists, in the moment, from moment to moment to moment. Because in 6 moments from now, you may not be here to give your power or to have your power. So,
yeah. They talk about anxiety and depression being so much more rampant in social media, and they chalk it up to comparison and everyone posting nothing but the good in their lives. And I personally don't think that's the biggest impact social media has had on these things. I think it's 100% how much of a black hole it is and doom scrolling. Like, I personally, and you've seen me do this, I will have social media apps, and if I catch myself being on them too long,
right?
I delete them for a month or two
You
so that
do,
I
and I go
can.
to send you a message, and I'm like, "What the hell? He's not even here anymore. Where
Yeah,
is
no,
he?"
exactly. And it's because it's like I realize it's taking me away from the present, and it's so easy because of those dopamine hits, how addictive it is.
It
Because
steals your
it's,
time.
yeah, it steals your time and your presence.
Yeah, and if you're not careful, going back to the disdain and envy show we did, it starts to empower those things, and it starts to empower your ego into kind of a disharmonious configuration. So,
Yeah.
yeah, no, I would agree with you. The single biggest problem with it is that it steals your time. And yes, I understand the irony of us talking about this as we share everything on social media. So
The
I
great
understand.
paradoxes.
I know paradoxes. So, presence, what does it mean to be present psychologically? Let's kind of go through those real quick.
You know, I think one of the most important parts when it comes to psychologically is the emotional regulation you can cultivate in the moment. What I realize with my doom scrolling, with anything that takes me away from the present, is when I don't know how to I don't want to regulate my emotions. And I start letting them just fester and build, and it's my way to dissociate.
It's
And
a lot of work, man.
yeah. And once I go to bed, it's like I got the rumination because all of a sudden I don't have this distraction in front of me, and now my emotions have free reign, and all the stuff I was avoiding thinking about now come water falling in.
It does. I'm just laughing because it's like you, you stub your toe on purpose and then you go and stub it again. It's just
Yeah.
like,
Well, and
but
I
it's
think a lot of
true.
people are unaware of it. Even me, when I
It's
do
true.
that, I'm totally unaware I'm doing it until all of a sudden I get to that place after I have that aha moment after a couple
Yep.
weeks, and it's like I'm dissociating because I feel uncomfortable and I don't want to face these emotions. And presence
You
allows
know,
us to get in there.
it
We gotta
does.
feel it to heal it. And so often when we're
Yeah.
going through crap in life, stress, struggle, coping with different things from grief to
Yeah.
whatever. I mean, it's easy to get caught in a loop of trying not to feel those things because we live in a society where we've glorified distraction.
Yeah, unfortunately. So, psychological presence, that's where we're here and we're not distracted by our regrets or our worries of the past or future, our regrets of the past and worries of the future, as we were talking about a minute ago. It's where your thoughts are aligned with the moment that you're living in. So we are together, we're present. I know you're present because we're having a good conversation and we are locked in. We are tuned in right here.
Yep.
We're tuned in here. We're tuned in physically. We're tuned in spiritually, emotionally, calm as water, right? But you're aligning your thoughts with the moment that you're actually living in. Not there, not there, not there, not there, here. And you're aware and you're focused and you're able to respond rather than react. You know, these conversations, they're so great because we are responding to each other. We're building upon what each is laying down.
Yeah.
If it was different, we'd just be, oh my God, reacting, you know, how dare you? So it's
But I'll
clarity.
say, even me, it's like I am so guilty of a lot of my past relationships before I started this path. I was so bad about being present with my relationships. It's like we would be having conversations and I'm scrolling social media while we're talking, and I got one foot in the door of the conversation, but I
Right.
never gave the people who deserved my time and respect the attention they deserved. And I regret that because I've had a lot of relationships that ended up having a lot of issues down the road because there wasn't that presence, there wasn't that respect. And man, it's just so toxic, for lack of a better word.
Yeah.
And I get it. I was dissociating. I was going through a lot of stuff for quite a few years, and even especially when it got really bad. So, like, I give myself the grace to understand I was just surviving with the tools I had, but also the awareness of, man, that wasn't cool.
But when you know better, do you do better? And that's what you were talking about earlier, where you're like, I'll do it for a week or two, and then I'm like, oh man, what am I doing? I know I'm doing it.
You know?
What is spiritual presence?
Man, it's so for me, spiritual presence, this kind of ties into psychological
Okay.
and kind of like the beginning of this episode. You know, anxiety lives in the future, depression in the past. So often are we stressing about the things we need to get done and trying to make everything go right. And man, I see so many people suffer from this need of control of the future, as well as just spite for people from things they've done in the past and things they regret doing. And for me, spiritual presence is, one, having faith that everything will work out in the future, trusting in the course of life, the people in my life, and in the things I've put before me to be successful so I can be present without concern, as well as forgiveness for the past and acceptance of the past so that I can be fully present and find joy and fulfillment in the present moment. You know, when we're there, when we're able to appreciate the present moment, when we're able to embrace what is before us and in this moment, whether it's the sunset, flowers, time with friends and family, it's being able to be fully in that moment without being stuck with our minds wandering towards one other direction or the other.
Yeah, no, that's good. That's good, especially at the end there when you said time with friends and family. This spiritual presence helps us feel connected and interconnected, because really we are interconnected with literally everything in the universe, down to the very atoms that compose it. Even the stuff we don't understand or have words for yet, we are interconnected with all of it. And that's a very important part of being spiritually present, is at the very least, it's that connection to all things. It's also the doorway to where we find and connect to higher things like God or the universe or the force. Because you really can't hear that voice in the silence if you are distracted and fragmented. You know, you have to be here now. And you have to be here to feel that connection, to feel those currents moving through you and around you, and hearing the whispers and the taps on the shoulder. So yeah, but ultimately the biggest thing is, and you said it, was connection. That's the biggest part of spiritual presence.
I think community is one of the most underrated things in this society. Community is so necessary. The greatest sages even say it, that they need people in their lives because we are social creatures. No matter how monkish you get going in the mountains, you can say that you don't like people, and I get that. People do you dirty, you end up not liking people, but people are necessary for growth, for fulfillment, and for social mirroring.
Yeah. Yeah, and just one more thing about connection. We often find people describing themselves as existing versus participating, being present, right? Yeah. You know, and a lot of people do just exist. They're here, but they're also there and there and there and there. And it's like this functional absence, right?
Yeah.
Where, you know, you're kind of on autopilot for some of it. And you're just going through all the motions while your mind is here and your heart is there. And you're really just you're just kind of surviving. And to be present is to live versus just surviving. You know, like, you know, you could be next to somebody that you love very much, but also still be miles and miles away. And kind of to what you said earlier, you could these people can walk through a forest and never see a single tree. Not even through the whole forest and never see one single tree. But when you take the headbuds off and stop listening to audiobooks and start looking around, you know, when you're present, that same forest can be like a cathedral. And your connections to people where you're usually miles away, that conversation really becomes something so much more sacred and something more powerful. It's really important to kind of try to find out in your life where you're just existing and where you're thriving, where you're being present. And I can tell you the difference between existing and being thriving is where you're being present, because you're focusing your whole attention there. So I just want to kind of throw that in there.
No, I'm glad you did, because it is something really important to bring up. I know here in the near future we'll be doing an episode on community and just connection and how important it is. I mean, I remember hiking. Like I said, I used to listen to audiobooks or music when I would go hiking, and it's like now it's, especially as I catch myself doing it, especially if I'm doing it a lot, it's like, take it off, try to focus in on the birds. Like, they have scientifically proven how healing the sound of birds in running water is. Yeah. I'm just trying to soak in those moments.
Yeah, and honestly, we're talking about presence today, and it's not some luxury that I have or that you have. Yeah, it's a requirement. It's an absolute requirement for healing too. You must be there for the water. You must be there for the birds. You must be there for whatever healing you're doing. You have to.
And it's a lifetime practice.
It is. Some days are better than others. Yep. You know, I listen to audiobooks when I'm driving. I probably should be paying more attention. You know?
Guilty.
But yeah. Because you can't release what you refuse to feel if you're just ignoring it, or you're distracting yourself away from it. And you can't change the things that you don't acknowledge. That requires presence too. right? So it's really one of the hardest parts, but it's one of the first parts to transformation. So it is very, very important, as we said. I know I keep saying that, but so.
Well, I'd even say this is one of those pillars of daily practices that helps keep this path moving and growing within us.
Right.
Because we need presence when we do the work we talk about in all our episodes.
Yeah.
Because if you're not fully focused and in the moment as you're working through this stuff, then you're distracting. Straight up, that is what the opposite of presence is distraction.
Right. Right.
So I know we kind of touched. Go ahead.
I was gonna ask you, why is it powerful though? I don't think I heard you tell us why it's powerful.
Presence is powerful because it allows us to be in the only time that exists. When we get in our thoughts, when we get into our emotions, when we are distracting ourselves, we are doing everything we can to do the opposite of being in the moment. And presence is the only way to truly embrace the moment and take action.
Yeah. I'm going to throw a couple things at you, and you can tell me how presence helps with this, or maybe empowers this.
Okay.
So presence is the seat of clarity. Why is
100%.
that?
Because
Why would you say that?
when you're being present, you're able to see things as they are, when often we are either looking so far in the future, looking at all the different branches of reality and the way it can go, that we don't have clarity because we're trying to be overanalyzing, as well as we're in the past and we're constantly looking at all the ways we need to avoid pain or avoid struggle. That also ties into the future. It clouds our clarity because then we're anticipating, and life will always throw us curveballs we don't expect.
Right. Well said. Yeah, well said. And it's also where our mind stops racing and we stop fighting or flying. We kind of calm down, right? We kind of start to see things at a better pace. And as you said, we're not grasping for things, and we're not worried about who hurt us yesterday, or really kind of helps us see things clearly. The moment reveals what illusion obscures, in other words. You know, so and here's another one I'll throw you. Presence disarms the ego.
Yeah. Well, the ego is exactly that. The ego does all it can to live outside of it. That book I brought up earlier, The Power of Now. The other big tangent within that book is the ego and the pain body. And the ego and the pain body's number one job is to get you to identify with it. Right. And when you are in ego, you are anticipating the future. And when you're in pain body, you're trying to relive your pain. To empower your pain, to justify your existence. So when you are in the... Go ahead.
Would you say that presence requires the ego, or that presence is too quiet for the ego? It doesn't
100%. Yeah, that whole sitting in silence for a week,
right?
That all the crazy thoughts you have going on, that's all ego. That's not you. That's all ego.
Right.
And yeah, your ego will scream and shout like they talk about meditating, and you sit there and you let it's not sitting in silence where you just push your mind out of your awareness. You allow your mind to come in. You allow your ego to start yelling at you. Because if you can sit there and let the ego yell at you, you can start learning to dissociate from your thoughts, to start distancing yourself and create space between your true self and your ego. Because the ego will always try to take you away from the present moment.
Yeah, and the other one I was going to throw at you, but we covered it already, was presence strengthens connection. Well, I mean, of course it does, right? So,
without a doubt.
And of course we talked about how presence heals. It's really important for it. So it's really powerful because it reconnects us with everything that we are and helps us separate the things that we're not, that we think we are, and everything that we've kind of forgotten, and everything we're meant to become. And so this idea of presence, this practice of presence, brings us back to the truth, to our peace, but really to our power.
Yeah. Our power only exists in the present. I can't tell you how much of my life, how many to-do lists, how many plans of action I've made that never saw fruit because I was too busy trying to plan for the future instead of just start taking action now.
Exactly. You listen, my student, you can control the future. Yeah?
Yeah.
Only by doing now. Yeah. Now, you do the things right now, and then right now, and then right now, and then right now. And then eventually you are in that future where everything is done because you did it in the moment. Yeah. So, yeah.
100%.
That's why that axiom that we have about the future is really, really kind of,
Powerful.
it's important. It's powerful, and it's hard for people to get through because you have to stop worrying about what 50-year-old Justin and 60-year-old Justin and 80-year-old Justin's going to do.
Yeah. Well, it's like being a farmer,
I'd be
right?
happy just to
And
get there to 80-year-old Justin, but I don't know. Who knows, right?
right? I mean, it's like being a farmer, and instead of watering your crops, you're too busy fantasizing about the fields you're going to have to harvest. And you're
Right.
so focused on planning for the fields you'll have to harvest that you forget to sow the seeds.
And it's just dirt. Yeah.
Yep. So, what are some barriers to presence? I know we've touched on a whole bunch throughout this conversation, but what stops people from being present?
Well, the first one that comes to mind is that mental overload and constant stimulation.
Well,
You just become a zombie. Too many video games, too many, but even good, too many good things are not great for you all the time. You have to find balance, but it's that overload.
yeah.
Because we live in a world that is designed to shatter our attention.
Yeah, I like that. I like that.
Scrolling and the breaking news, somebody else blew up today, or background noise. Everybody's got some kind of background noise going on before. I never could. So like when my kids started getting older, I started hearing this noise just everywhere, dude. And I'm like, what is that noise? And I'm looking around, and I find out, oh well, it's just my chill ambience, or my this ambience, or my that ambience. And sometimes I'll go into like a restaurant that's playing the music too loud, and it annoys me because I want to talk to the people in front of me, and I can't focus on them because I've got little Kim in the back doing this thing. You know what I mean? It's like I can't. So it's all this constant stimulation and this background noise and this endless multitasking. Right? Everywhere you go, especially, the kind of jobs that you and I work kind of in that more office setting now, where it's like you've always got 1,000 things to do, and you have to somehow figure out how to do them all together or at the same time. These
When
things,
life's geared like that, taxes, bills.
taxes, yes. These things overtake us. Even the strongest of us fall victim to these.
There's
And
a book I read
So
called...
that's one of the ones I would say.
Yeah. I read this book called Scattered Minds, and it talks about how there's a pandemic going on now of people with ADHD. And it's not that they don't have ADHD, they obviously do, but it's stemming from too much stimulation, too much distraction. And when we are going through this, we start dissociating, and it starts making us more and more unable to focus on what's important. Because they classify ADHD as not being able to spread your attention, not just on things you enjoy, but things you don't. And it's like,
Right.
of course people can't put their attention on things they don't enjoy.
Yeah,
Especially
they
when
suck.
they get so used to being stimulated by so many things.
Or being able to choose to do only the things that make them feel good.
Yeah.
Instead of kind of naturally facing some of these things that don't.
Which, I mean, there's so many internal distractions from presence. You got rumination, fear, trauma responses. You have just the discomfort I was talking about earlier, where I catch myself where it's like, I have a little bit of stress. I start doing social media, and all of a sudden, 2 weeks later, I'm letting that little bit become a lot more because I'm not letting it breathe. And it's like, all of a sudden, I'm overwhelmed. And that was my entire adult life. I was constantly just afraid of being with that discomfort. Emotional intelligence isn't the ability of being like, oh, that's anger, that's sadness. It's being able to sit in that discomfort without reacting or distracting.
Or at least judging yourself. You can start there, not judging yourself for it. Yeah. That was another one I was going to bring up, was unhealed emotional wounds are a roadblock to this. Another one is one that probably we all have suffered from time to time, or from practice to practice, and that's the fear of stillness.
I know so many people. I don't meditate. I can't meditate. My mind gets too loud. It's like, that's exactly why you need meditation.
Right. Yeah. And you know why it gets loud? Because stillness terrifies a wounded and unbalanced ego. It can't hide there.
Yep.
Right?
Well, it's like you look at most people who suffer from not being able to meditate. You look at where they're at in life. You look at most business leaders, especially in this
Hmm.
modern day, this new age
Right.
of entrepreneurship, almost all of them will preach meditation, and there's a reason for that.
Yeah, they give their people like little meditation pods and stuff. I wish I could work there. Actually, I don't wish I could work there. I kind of like doing this better, but
We'll get there. This will be a full-time job
yeah,
soon enough.
there you go. Yeah, sooner than you might think. One of these.
Yeah, right.
Anyways, presence is really uncomfortable at first because, especially when we're not used to sitting still, or we can't sit still because our mind and our ego won't let us sit still because we haven't figured out how to balance those things and heal those things that we have to heal. It sucks. It feels bad. It's uncomfortable because because really what presence is doing is saying, it's like grabbing us by the head, stop, and then it's turning our head to see us. It's
Yep.
facing us against us, right? We got to
Yep.
face ourselves.
We're forced to feel.
Yeah. Oh, I don't like this. It feels so horrible. But it is. That's what presence does. That's why meditation is very powerful, but it's really hard. So, but as in all things, if you practice, takes care of it right away.
Yep. And you were talking about earlier how not all meditations fit people. It's like as you
Hmm.
start to work through this stuff, you start learning to be more present. And I'm
Right.
sure you can attest to this. There are so many meditations that now work for me and for
Yeah.
different situations. And I need to do some
Right.
deep shadow work. I light me a
Hmm.
candle. I focus on that flame. I get in touch with my deep pain and feelings.
Right.
You know, if I need to just purge my thoughts a little bit, that's when I sit in silence and start learning to disconnect from my thoughts again. And then in turn, there's also when I get too identified with reality and my feelings, I do the I am meditation you taught me.
Hmm.
And just you start learning there's different meditations for different struggles in life and different
Right.
phases of life, different seasons.
Yeah. It is. It's true. And to piggyback off of that, the last one I had as a roadblock is this doing all these things and having all these habits and having even all these practices. And they could be really good practices too, but not having any time for reflection on anything. That creates a problem because your habits aren't always sacred, right? Sometimes they're
Right.
bad. I've got bad habits. You have bad habits. And I know you do too because we all have bad habits. And they're not always
Yay,
good.
being human.
Exactly. And when we move through our days on autopilot, even doing good stuff, and we're not questioning, we're uninspired, we're unawake, and we kind of go to sleep, and we've talked about this in another episode. There's an axiom for this. Decay comes from complacency. We did a show on that not too long ago. We're presence here. I'm doing the meditations. I'm doing the push-ups. I'm doing the whatever. But my heart's not in it anymore. My mind's not on it. It's somewhere else. This presence means waking up each day. Each word, each breath. I mean, and you're not going to hit it every time. I don't. So, but just do your best. But just
Yeah.
remember that you can develop the best habits ever. But if you do not take time to reflect on what you're doing, you're going to start falling out of presence.
And presence is really the key that turns those habits into golden things. Through presence can we give our best work and not become
Yeah.
aimless and autopilot. There we go. That's what I was looking for. Because that
There you go, yeah.
autopilot will make half butt work.
Yeah, he doesn't want to have to edit the other word out.
So cultivating presence.
Mm.
We've talked a lot about what presence is, why we struggle with it. What are some ways people can start cultivating true presence in their life? From people who are new to this to people who are fairly adept.
Breathing, breath as an anchor. Your breath is your tether to the presence. Without breath, you're not here. All right? Just as simple as that. And when your thoughts start drifting and your emotions come up and all this stuff, when you have a moment, breathe. Breathe, breathe, breathe. Because that's going to regulate your nervous system. It's going to get your blood pressure down. And you're going to start focusing on breathing instead of all this crazy stuff that's coming at you.
Well said.
It's literally reconnecting you to the living force. Breathing. It's the most important thing we do as human beings. Breathe.
I know
you
that
can
was
go
the one
3
thing
minutes.
when I first started that really helped me out.
Yeah. Well, you can go 3 minutes without breathing, 3 days without water, 3 weeks without food. But what comes first? The breathing. You
You
can't,
know,
I don't
when
care how
breath is
zen
very
you are. When you stop breathing, you really, really start focusing on the moment.
Well, it's like when you're mindful, when you're noticing your breath, when you're focusing in on breathing in, the sensations that gives breathing
Hmm.
out. I mean, it allows you to be so in the moment because those things are happening right here, right now, and having an impact.
It's literally the only mandatory meditation I made you do, the calming breath. The calming breath is the only, because I promise you, if you're a human being and you're alive, you need to breathe.
Yep.
So that's the only kind of meditation. I don't even know if it's a meditation. A lot of people call it meditation, but I call it the calming breath meditation. It's the first thing I learned, and boy, does it work really well. And I used, for 20 years, I did a job where, man, I don't know what's happening. I'm going there with a gun. So if I'm going there with a gun to keep the peace, bad stuff's happening. And man, let me tell you, I don't care how tough you are, how big and strong you are, how many times you've done this, that calming breath, real, because you get nervous and you get anxious and you're like, what, running through 1,000 things in your mind. Okay, this could happen, this could happen, this could happen, this could happen. Really, anything could happen, and sometimes it does, and bad stuff happens. So that calming breath works for everyone.
Yeah. I
If
know
you
you've
can breathe,
talked about it before, but you should tell everyone at the end of this podcast how to do the calming breath again.
I could just show you right now. So it's a 4 count, 4 count, 4 count, and some people do 4, 7, 8. Some people do. All I'll say to you is do whatever feels comfortable. We all have different lung capacities. We all have different breathing problems and whatever, right? But so that's why I stick to 4, 4, 4. You breathe in to your full body, your chest and your belly. Chest first, belly second, or hold on. Belly first, chest second. And you count to 4 as you're doing that. So on your inhale, and then you hold for 4, and then you exhale to the count of 4. Don't cheat. Don't count really fast. Just
Yeah,
count.
right?
But anyway, yeah, I'm just kidding. But 4, 4, 4 is kind of the rule of thumb, and do that as many times as you need. Sometimes I've had to do it 20 times. Sometimes I've had to do it twice. It doesn't matter. It's really loose on the rules. There aren't really any rules. Just do 4, 4, 4 if you can. And try to get to 4. If 5 works better for you, or 7 or 8, go for it. If 3 is the best you could do until you practice some more, then do that. But the whole point is to breathe into your whole system and focus on the count, and it will calm you down.
One of my favorite exercises I've ever come across for grounding and becoming present is it's a 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 exercise. What are 5 things I can see? What are 4 things that I can touch? What are 3 things I can hear?
Yeah.
What are 2 things I can smell? And what's 1 thing I can taste? And it's a great way when your nervous system is going awry, or you're dealing with a lot of stress or anxiety, to just ground yourself into the moment and bring you into presence.
Yeah, it's a really good method too. It is. And they use that for a plethora of different problems. If someone is really anxious all the time, or they're in the middle of a horrible panic attack. I will say that the calming breath, not real easy to do when you're in the middle of a full-blown panic attack.
Yeah.
Right? Because you barely are breathing regular at all. You're really just kind of all over the place.
Hyperventilating, yeah.
Yeah, so that method is really good for that.
Yeah. Once you get good at this... Oh, go ahead.
Oh, no, good. I'm sorry.
Oh, no worries. Once you get good at this, doing body scans. Often, we've talked about chakras before. Once you realize something is off and you're distracting yourself and you're not being present, scan your body. You'll notice where you're feeling resistance. Is it in your heart? Is it in your stomach? Where are you? Is it in your root? Where are you feeling resistance in your body? And often when you find the chakra associated, just look up a chakra map. You'll see what it is, and you can see what it's impacting, and you will find correlations. You're feeling it in your heart. It's probably something going on within your relationships. If it's in your solar plexus, it's probably having something to do with willpower or not feeling adequate.
Yeah.
If it's in your root, there's something you don't feel secure in, whether that's your family, your work, or your life.
If it's in your throat, you're not speaking your truth. Speak your truth, always. Because the truth has no regard for popularity, right?
And straight.
Another one is turning everything into a ritual, like tea with intention. Use the dishes time to practice mindfulness. Light a candle before you're journaling. Walk without your phone. Just do one little thing that you do every time for a particular practice, and turn it into a ritual. Ritual is not a dirty word. I don't care what some people say, because they do rituals too. They just don't call them that.
Well, when it
So,
comes down to it, we're creatures of habit, and habits are one of
yeah.
the most either one of the most destructive things in our life, or one of the most
Mhm.
beneficial things in our life. And it's all about what you choose to do. And unfortunately, habits do take, I think, 90 days to form and become habit. So when there's things you want to incorporate in your life, be diligent, be present, and allow yourself to start cultivating these things. Work with a schedule. If you hit the gym, try to do it at the same time every day. If you're going to journal at the same time every day. Get your system used to a repetitive cycle. That doesn't mean autopilot, but cultivating the skill of habit.
And just learn to have embodied presence. You went through a few already with the body scanning. That's a very good place to start, because you could just do that in bed. You can do that before you go to sleep. You can do that lots of different ways. Some other things, move with awareness. When you're walking, stretching, your martial arts practice, or dance, these things anchor you to the here and now. Walk barefoot on the ground if you can,
You know?
every once in a while. Dip yourself in cold water. You will become very mindful when you do that, won't you, Michael?
Oh my gosh. I love ice baths. They are emotional, but man, do they force you to be in the
They
moment.
said, he said they're emotional. I bet they are. Yeah.
I know
they,
one of
they
me and
really,
Allison's biggest themes in our relationship is we do hard things together. So we did an ice bath
yeah.
together for 3 minutes and
With our Salona girls, right?
yep.
Yeah. Things like yoga, qigong, tai chi, martial arts, whatever. Just move with intention, move with presence. Do activities that require your full attention. And of course, journaling. Journaling is a good practice in presence, right? Because it's how we start to learn. Well, I won't say it's how we do, but it's one way to learn how to witness ourselves. It slows us down, and we're writing about things not to control the moment, but to understand it. So, like, for example, where did I leave the present today? That could be a journal entry. How can I return to the moment tomorrow, or the present? What did I feel most connected to today? Things like that. Those kind of get you out of all the other things and makes you write about what's going on right now.
So we've talked about a lot of physical practices you can do. What are some good spiritual presence practices?
Meditation, of course. Meditation is great because it integrates the mind, body, spirit just naturally through the practice of it. Because, well, you got to sit there. That's hard. you know,
You know,
you have to not quiet the mind, but witness the mind without judgment, depending on the type of meditation you're doing. And this is a practice that isn't meant to help you escape, but to meet yourself where you're at. So, and it's where lots of things happen. If you give it enough practice, some crazy things will happen. You'll start seeing and experiencing things related to yourself that can only heal your soul.
my greatest shadow work was done in long meditation sessions. I remember there was the one, the lighting the flame, and I sat there for probably 2 hours, just focused on that plane and trying to contemplate my patterns. And that's when I had that aha moment with playing the hero.
Yeah. Prayer is another good practice for presence and for your spirit. Now, someone's going to say, well, what kind of prayer? I don't know. What kind of prayer works best for you? That's the same kind of answer I would give, because sometimes I do I am prayers. Sometimes I do affirmative prayers. Sometimes I do prayers where I attempt to speak to things and people higher than myself. And none of those are better than others. Like you said earlier, it just goes back to, what are you trying to accomplish? What is it that you're trying to do? And then just, practice different kinds of methods of prayer. For many people, meditation is prayer, and that's okay too.
Yeah.
So, I'm not going to judge it, because I can't possibly know what it's like to be you or you. So, and what works best for me may not work best for either of you. So, but prayer is really, really powerful when you give it your best effort.
Completely agreed. Well, and it's just like, prayer is where affirmation becomes reality. When we can pray for things as they exist, for them already being present in our lives, it is the best way to give up all this struggle, all our pain. We talk about people who have come to God, and it's them releasing their burdens to God. That is what prayer is, whether you're religious or not. It is giving your burdens up so that you may rest in presence. So that you
It's
may
disassociating with them and not falling under the illusion that you are your problems.
yeah.
You're disassociating with them. So there's a psychological element to it too. It's pretty powerful. It's really powerful. And what you were just describing are more like those affirmative prayers.
Yep.
Where it's like, I am affirming that I am releasing this and I'm giving it to you or you or you or you or whatever. And so it is once you do that, because you've already declared it. I'm not a big fan of those kind of prayers where you beg for stuff. I don't think those are very powerful.
No. It's focusing on lack.
It's just exactly. It's just my opinion. I don't think they're very powerful. Maybe they, so there's two different kinds of these prayers that I'm talking about. One is kind of begging for things, and the other one is just kind of venting. The venting ones are good. I think it's okay to vent to a higher power because again you're doing some act of disassociation from those things that are really, really pressing down on you, and you're kind of acknowledging that you are not those things. Those things are just attached to you right now. So I think those kind of prayers are good too. The venting kind, because look, not all of us have somebody we can vent to. Not everybody's as lucky as you, Michael. And Heather. And I vent too. It was all I was just kidding. I vent too.
That's why community is important. We got to get stuff off our chest. We got to have that mirroring. Am I in the wrong for feeling this way, or am I right? And that's one of the reasons you got to be careful when you pick your friends. You don't want people always just agreeing with you, because that'll lead you down a dark road.
Oh yeah, yeah, and they will abandon you after they just said, "Oh, everything's cool, everything's cool, everything's cool," and then they'll be gone, and you'll be left alone with all this stuff and all these years of stuff that you thought was okay, and it's not, because it just came back with a vengeance. As we say, the check comes due eventually, and you have to pay it. All your homies that did you dirty, they're gone. They're not there, because the people like Michael's talking about, if they're there, they're gonna help you through it, and they'll be there when the bill comes due. They'll be there. So.
Or they'll try to keep you at that level. I mean, I tell you what, they talk about crabs in a bucket, and it's one of the greatest analogies. It's like, so you start to raise your vibration, and you start losing people out of your life. A lot of them, you're used to someone who has suffered from alcoholism or any type of issue where you were getting stuck in life. People don't like seeing their peers do better than them, and they will grab at your legs as you're climbing out of that bucket and try to pull you back to their level.
Right. Yep. But with presence, you'll identify that, and you'll remove yourself from those kinds of influences.
Yep. Stand your ground at least.
Yeah. Yeah.
One last thing that I think really helps spiritually being present is finding outlets that are creative. That doesn't mean playing video games. That means painting, drawing. If you have a business that you're really passionate about, not because you want to make money, but because you feel it calling to you. Putting yourself into work that means something, that matters.
Right. That's a good one. Yeah. That is a good one.
And lastly, what are the gifts that come with presence? What is it that when we get into a routine of presence, what is the benefits we see within our lives?
Clarity. That's the first one I can think of. Clarity.
That's a big one.
It is. Because when you are present and you are clear in both mind and spirit, the distractions, the chaos, the noise, it quiets down, and this mental fog starts to lift away, and you make decisions easier. You're like, decision, and it comes easy, and they're good decisions, right? They're sound and they're logical, but they're also compassionate and whatever. And you're not like pulled one way here to the future, and you're not pulled this way to the past. You're not ripped in half or shattered. That's what happens when you're clear. You see what is, not what fear projects or what your ego is screaming at you or what it insists.
Oh, it's so true. There's also heightened gratitude and joy. You feel so much more abundance in the moment when you appreciate what you have and what's before you for the journey that's unfolding. There's a reason that quote has been so strong and has lasted the ages, that the journey is more important than the destination. Because the journey is where the stories come from. The journey is where the character's built. The journey is where you create the connections. The destination is just when everything you worked for builds up to.
Can you imagine if you watched a movie and all you got was the first 5 minutes and the last 5 minutes?
Right.
It'd be a really crappy movie. It'd be like, what the hell? What the hell's going on here? And you got to make up the rest. Yeah.
Yeah.
Deeper connection with others. That's kind of a low hanging fruit one. Of course, if you're present with others, you're going to have deeper connections with them.
But they're much more real relationships, much more
Yeah,
connected. And not only is it
right,
deeper connection with others, but it's connection with self.
right.
Like, the more in tune we are with ourselves, the more we end up understanding our needs and how to fulfill them. The more we understand the beauty that is us, our perfect imperfections. When we're so
Hmm.
busy criticizing ourselves for not being at the destination, we don't take time to appreciate who we are in the moment.
Right. You touched upon this inner peace and stillness. You didn't talk about that directly, but that's what you were talking about.
Yeah.
Was because we don't find that stuff in escape or avoiding everything or dodging everything. It's discovered here in the breath, in the stillness. That's where inner peace is, and that stillness that Bruce talked about. And it's a superpower, literally.
Yeah, I mean, we
It's
talk about the inner
literally.
critic. We did a whole episode on it. This is the silencing of the inner critic. It doesn't mean he's not there, but he no longer has the power he's had on us through our lives.
Right.
It's where the inner critic is no longer a ruler, but a subject.
Yeah. Yep. Things like your intuition get sharper when you're present. But to piggyback on something you talked about in the last segment was you will gain greater clarity, or I mean greater creativity and inspiration because it opens that channel. You're not bogged down by all this other crap when you're present. You're not distracted by anything. You're able to focus. You know, whether you're an artist, a healer, a teacher, a seeker, whatever, that inspiration flows to you more freely when you're here. So,
No, beautifully said.
and I only have one other one for this, and that's empowered action, which is usually the result of all the things we talk about that we need to practice. It just builds upon that empowered action. Remember, this is where your power is. Your actions and thoughts and things become intentional and not reactive. Right? You respond, not react. Respond, not react. Something you hear me say a lot, and I'll say it forever and ever. You speak with purpose. You move with grace. You act from clarity rather than compulsion.
Yeah.
You know, yeah, these are awesome. These are all true, but your mileage may vary on how soon you get to these things once you start incorporating that purposeful presence. You're pulling your whole being and you're making yourself be here all the time. It is a very difficult thing to do, but you'll get there. You just got to keep practicing and practicing and practicing, little by little. So,
Yeah. Anything else you want to add before we wrap up the show?
no, I think we touched upon presence pretty well. I felt like we were present for the show.
Yeah, right?
No, all kidding aside, it's one of these things that can be very difficult, but not impossible. Don't ever let yourself think about things as being impossible because nothing in this universe is possible or impossible. So there are some absolutes, perhaps. That's for a different philosophical discussion for all of us to have someday. But if you practice and practice and practice, you will start building up this muscle of being present, and this your whole being will thank you for it. So
So
and
true.
others will thank you for it. That's a big one. That's where you know. So, and I'll just say this, sorry. When you start practicing presence in your life, that's the spot in your life where you'll see it come through probably first or the most. And that's in those interactions you have with people, with your coworkers, with your teachers, or your significant others.
Yeah.
That's where it will start coming through more because they'll start kind of looking at you like, what? So,
No, it's so true, though. Wow,
mhm.
you're a whole new person. No, you just got all my attention.
Yeah, no,
I am
I'm
present
just
with
here. I'm paying attention for once. Yeah. You know, because that's like the biggest complaint people have. You know, he never listens to me or she's never paying attention, you know, type of thing. So, yeah, that's where you'll see it first. And look, just use it if you need that as evidence to keep pushing forward with this. Do it because it'll change your whole life, and it's the only way to grow. It's the only way to heal,
Create real
to
change. So the affirmations for this topic. I return to this moment with ease, knowing it holds everything I need. My breath anchors me to the present, where peace lives. I am fully here, fully aware, and fully enough. I release the past and stop chasing the future. I choose to live now. I am aware that the only time that exists is this moment. And it is in this moment lies my power to change and create. Now, I actually touched on the exercise already in this episode, but I'm going to lead you through it a little more deep. So take some time. Breathe in, breathe out. Allow yourself to relax. Do this a couple times to bring yourself into your body. Then, notice 5 things around you. What is the details you see within them? Look at 5 different objects in your environment. 4, or better said, feel 4 different things. The clothing on your skin, the material, the feeling of the cushion of the bed underneath you, your socks hugging your ankles. What are 4 things you can feel? Then, what are 3 things that you can hear? I can hear my dishwasher going. I can hear cars in the faint backdrop. I can hear Justin and the few noises coming from his area. What are 2 things you can smell? I can smell my cologne. I can smell the air. And 1, what is something I can taste? And I can taste the coffee that I've been drinking this episode. After you get yourself grounded, then do a body scan. Bring your attention to your feet. Feel them pressed against the ground. Move your awareness slowly up your body through your ankles, your knees, your hips, your chest, all the way to the crown of your head. Notice any tension without judgment. Just be here, in your body, and breathe in it. Allow yourself to feel whatever's going on. Then affirm presence. Say to yourself, I am here, I am safe, I am in this moment. Let yourself feel that, even if it's only for a second. Then lastly, our journaling prompt. What fears or distractions keep me from being present? And what do I need to feel safe enough to return to this moment? Well, if you made it this far, thank you for joining us today. With love and gratitude, Ad Lucium.
Ad Lucium.